eNCA parents want government to stop its COVID-19 vaccination drive at schools. Many parents fear adverse effects of the vaccine. However, education activists are cautioning against this call. Let's speak now to education activist Hendrick Makaneta, who joins me now to take this discussion even further. Hendrick, thank you for your time and good morning to you. Why are you calling against parents who are calling for the scrapping of COVID-19 vaccinations at schools?
Well, it should be very clear at this point that the country and the world still face COVID-19 as a pandemic. The fact that we still have COVID-19, our call is that we should never, ever think of stopping the vaccination program. And of course, it is understandable that parents may want to call on their children not to be vaccinated because they somehow feel that we no longer experience many deaths. But we think that that call is ill-informed, and the government should carry on with vaccination programs to make sure that our children are also safe at all schools in our country.
It seems some of the concerns that parents raise, Hendrick, include the after effects of getting the jab. One particular parent saying that, and I think this is relatable to some people who, after getting vaccinated, were experiencing, symptoms, flu-like symptoms, some whose arms were a bit sore. So they are worried about, they say, the effects this could have on their children, because it seems the letters of consent that had been sent out didn't thoroughly explain to the parents to give them comfort as to what exactly happens to a child's body once they are vaccinated.
I think in this case, the experts, medical experts, should come on board to also clarify parents in relation to the vaccination program. We know that this is not something that is happening for the first time in our country. As adults, the majority of us have already vaccinated. And of course, there are relevant advice that is given from time to time by medical experts to say, once you vaccinate, you need to relax for a while and not move around, just to stay for 15 minutes or so before you can carry on with your journey. And I think these are some of the expectations that we want government to pursue in relation to programs for children. Again, we also know that there's been some of the calls in the past from those who did not want to be vaccinated, to try and, fiddle or come up with, theories around vaccines. And as we speak now, the majority of the population of South Africa is vaccinated. And of course, there has never been a major problem that has been experienced. Right. I think that these fears must be alleviated by medical experts working hand in glove with the Department of Basic Education.
Right, and I'm glad you raised the Department of Basic Education and Government, because it seems there's another concern that parents are raising, that those parents who've received letters say the letters are more instructional. It's not a conversation, it's not a let's talk about it, let's discuss it, and you may have your say as a parent. It's more of an instructional letter that was given to them. But for those parents, Hendrick, who say they had not received the letter, they're saying, their children were jabbed without their consent. They were not present at the school to actually monitor their children, because you did mention that there is advice given to adults that when you do get the jab, you need to wait for, a couple of minutes just so that they can assess you and your immediate reaction to the vaccine. But parents are saying we are worried that we are at work while this is happening at school. So how can government as well better communicate and work with the parents to administer these vaccines, do you think?
Well, I think that it is a good thing that government has taken the steps to write letters to parents to inform them about the vaccination programs for their children. But if you can check in terms of the regulations which were gazetted some time back, I don't think that parent consent is required as such. If the child takes a decision to say, I will be vaccinated, parental consent is not a big issue in this case. I think that even basic education minister said it at some point, that in terms of the regulations, you don't necessarily need the consent of the parent. So the government can go ahead as far as with the program as long as children agree with the program.
So you only need the consent of the child. I'm talking here between the ages 12 and 18. No parent consent is needed. The child is the only one that can consent. Is that what you're saying to me?
That is what I'm actually saying. Just like the Termination of Pregnancy Act, it allows for the girl child to continue with termination of pregnancy without the consent of the parent. And that is the law. I know that there are many parents who may not be happy, but once the law is gazetted, it becomes a law. So as we speak now, a 12-year-old girl does not need the consent of the parent to terminate pregnancy. So it's something that I think the government has done well, as I said, just to write letters to parents. But consent is not necessarily an issue.
Well, we leave it there for now. And thank you so much for joining us and talking to me about this. Education activist Hendrick Makaneta, thank you for your time this morning.